Greetings. Life, we know exactly what is alive and what is not. It seems like common sense. We would all agree that a horse is a living being and a chair is not. A fish is alive and a rock is not. Although when we think about more unusual elements like viruses, things get complicated. The definition of life is the ability to be born, grow, metabolize, respond to external stimuli, reproduce, and die. This encompasses the entire animal kingdom, plant life such as plants, protists, archaea, bacteria, and fungi. All known living beings possess life for a time and then lose it, as if we were soap bubbles that are born, generate more bubbles, and eventually fade into nothingness. The most relevant aspect is that life does not diminish based on the size of the creature. Being smaller doesn't mean having less life. This implies that life is a physical state and not the organism itself. A bacterium is not less alive than a giraffe. Some consider viruses as simple chemical substances with the sole function of intracellular reproduction and a need for a host. Fire, depending on how you look at it, could be considered alive too. It is born, reproduces, and dies, always needing material and oxygen to reproduce. So, the line between the living and the inanimate is not clear. It's possible that when we discover life on other planets, our concept of life will change forever. If it's very different from ours, how could we recognize it? There might be universal elements in any living being. We could arrive at the conclusion that life is nothing more than information transmitted through time, struggling for survival. As we have a limited time, we need to pass on our genetic material to avoid extinction. Life might be the resistance of living beings, the increase of their local entropy. Because if life were the resistance to increasing local entropy, then all matter in this universe would be alive. Order and complexity are only observable in macroscopic systems, as on a microscopic level, entropy is fixed, it's more disordered. But when we consider the order of a macroscopic system and examine its microscopic order, we easily discover that there's no clear boundary between the macroscopic and the microscopic, the ordered and the disordered, and the complex and the simple. On one hand, we have a universe with explosive chaos, expansion, and randomness or chance encounters of matter. But on the other hand, that same universe offers patterns or laws that structurally shape it. In certain circumstances, life emerged on Earth. We are in a universe that allows for beings like us. If the fundamental forces of the universe varied, even by 0.0001%, life couldn't exist. Perhaps planets couldn't form, or stars would have shorter lifespans. This makes us consider that we live in a universe that permits our existence. But there have been periods in the universe where life wasn't possible. Maybe before the Big Bang, our universe was an embryo of another universe. However, the enigma of existence has parameters that transcend humanity's immediate experience in the world. Clearly, asking why we exist is like death, we exist, period. Otherwise, we couldn't formulate that question. If multiple universes mean non-existence, we will always be aware in the universe with specific laws that allow us to live, even if time doesn't exist or is different from what we know. Even so, it doesn't seem like the universe is made for us. We live confined on a small planet, the only one capable of sustaining life. The rest of the cosmos seems devoid of life. We are in a fishbowl. Beyond it, there's nothing but hot spheres of plasma, inert worlds of rock and gas, energetic processes, supernovae, black holes, radiations, nothing that indicates it was created for us. We seem more like the result of the whims of cosmic nature. We are nothing compared to the infinite and everything compared to nothing. Thus, science removes us from our anthropological and intraworldly narcissism, opening doors, whether to a finite or infinite universe. But how did life arise? Living beings, even ancient organisms like bacteria, are immensely complex. However, all this complexity didn't arise perfectly formed from the primordial soup. Instead, with almost absolute certainty, life originated in a series of small steps in a liquid medium. Each of these steps added to the evolving complexity until molecules emerged that could replicate themselves. These copies created unique characteristics. Those that survived the environment generated more copies, and the less adapted ones died. The machinery of life and evolution had begun. And this led to multicellular beings like us. We are not a single entity, we are beings composed of tiny cells and millions of living microorganisms, with an evolution spanning billions of years. We are survivors on a planet that has allowed us to evolve into intelligent beings capable of asking questions, manipulating tools, and our environment. Perhaps on other planets, they haven't been as lucky. If we consider the millions of processes and events that must be possible for something as rare as a living being to emerge, we can imagine that life is scarce in the universe. But we live in such a vast universe that scarcity turns into abundance. But what kind of life could we find out there? Our form of life is constituted by 4 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, which are much more abundant in living matter than in the Earth's crust. 97% of our body consists of these 4 elements. Virtually our entire body is made up of matter that originated from stars. There might be hypothetical biochemical processes that use elements other than carbon to build primary molecular structures and that occur in solvents other than water. There could be silicon-based life forms, silicon beings, boron, etc. Still, it seems that carbon is the element that best forms complex structures. We could define ourselves as molecular machines. We are guided by algorithms. In our brains, it has been demonstrated that in certain situations, a person reacts in a similar way, and the decisions we make have already been calculated by our brain before and the command has been sent. It's an illusion to believe that we own ourselves and have control in decision making. The decision makers are the neural circuits that, working behind the level of consciousness, perform these operations and finally send a decision for us to believe we made it. We might be nothing more than puppets of our neurons. Emotions add color to our decisions. It's related to everyday processes where we receive rewards each time we make a correct decision. The brain rewards us with dopamine. Dopamine regulates motor activity, motivation, sleep, mood, attention, and learning. In the end, we are biological robots with emotions. Perhaps nowadays we make more decisions than an artificial machine can, but nothing would prevent us from building an artificial being in the future with the capacity to reproduce and perhaps even have feelings. The only difference is that this being would be composed of microchips, while we are composed of cells. We are composite beings subject to the mathematical algorithms of our neurons. Life can arise spontaneously and evolve into complex organisms. This has been demonstrated through certain computer programs that simulate evolving life forms, like the so-called game of life. The game unfolds on a board that represents a universe, with very simple rules established. Pixels act like cells. Each rule in this universe determines whether they live, die, reproduce, and how they evolve. With time, we observe the creation of complex structures. Very simple rules can lead to very complex behaviors, demonstrating that something simple can give rise to something highly complex and unpredictable given enough time. It's clear that the universe is an immense and astonishing machine. Its vastness, order, beauty, and cruelty make it equally impressive. Although we exist in this remote corner of the galaxy, it seems that the universe wasn't tailored to our measure, neither is it hostile, it's simply indifferent. If you liked this video, give it a like and subscribe, share it on social media, and leave your comment.